Hi Year 12. So for task 2, we're going to be creating a mind map using Popplet to brainstorm how we would answer the 2013 HSC question, how does the use of the distinctly visual emphasize the ways that individuals respond to significant aspects of life? And the reason that we're doing this activity is I've identified a need to scaffold your essay structures as they can be quite confused in answering the question and organising your arguments. And it's easy to see why. If we look at the 2013 essay question, we can see that it's actually asking us to do 3 things. And we can see this by breaking down the question into parts. So the first part, how does the use of the distinctly visual emphasize the ways? Second part, that individuals respond to, and lastly, third part, significant aspects of life. And so we can see in each of those parts, it's asking us to do a separate thing. And we have to answer those 3 things with reference to our core text and related text. So for this activity, we're going to be using just the drover's wife as our core text, and we'll be using on the wallaby track as our related text. So in one response, we are having to answer 3 different requirements with 2 different texts. It's a recipe for disaster, and you can easily see how easy it is to become lost and all over the place in your essays trying to synthesize all these different components. In order to help you, I think using mind maps is an excellent way to practice organising your ideas so that they may be written in a coherent, structured way in your essay. By visually mapping out your ideas, you'll be much more empowered in perceiving how to go about the essay. So in a mind map, we have an inner central layer, which represents the main point of each paragraph. So paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, which part of the essay should inform our main point? I think it should be the third part, significant aspects of life. So we need to come up with 4 significant aspects of life, and these will be your 4 paragraphs. I have got you started on your first paragraph. I think a significant aspect of life exploring both texts is raising the family. Now, the question is asking us to identify how individuals respond to these aspects. That is the second part of the question. So leading off from our stem here, our paragraph 1 stem, I have orange to represent the drover's wife and green to represent on the wallaby track. I'm going to create the second layer of the mind map to address the second part of the question. So how does the wife in the drover's wife respond to raising a family? Well, in the drover's wife, I think she responds in a hearty, gruff manner. As the leader of the family, her husband is gone droving for months. She has sole responsibility for raising the kids. She is a resilient, no-nonsense leader, trying to make it against the backdrop of a harsh Australian landscape. Now, how does the wife respond in raising a family on the wallaby track? Well, in the painting, she's presented as quite fatigued and disconsolate, struggling against the isolated, harsh life of a squatter's wife out on the road in the wilderness, constantly travelling. And you can imagine just how hard that is on a young mum. Okay, so now I have addressed part 2 of the question by looking at both texts. Now I need to address part 3 of the question. Now we will need to address part 1 of the question, which will form layer 3 of our mind map. And part 1 of the question is, how does the use of the distinctly visual emphasize? This part is asking for the textual evidence, the language techniques, and how they evoke the distinctly visual. So how does Lawson use the distinctly visual to portray the harsh gruffness of the drover's wife? Well, I remember when reading the drover's wife and being surprised on the first page in her first piece of dialogue when she's speaking to her son, calling him "you little wretch," and the dialogue is typified by quite coarse colloquial language. So Lawson is using those colloquialisms to evoke a very distinctly visual representation of the wife and how she's responding to raising a family. Now, how does McCubbin use the distinctly visual to portray the tired, disconsolate squatter's wife? Well, the painter has presented the wife's body language in the painting, particularly in regards towards her baby, as quite tired and disconsolate. You can see that she has her head flopped to the side, her arms are dangling by her side, and she's just resting her baby on her knees. So the body language, the kind of disaffected, dispassionate body language that the wife is showing towards her baby is a technique that really communicates to the audience just how tired and disconsolate this wife is in responding to raising a family as a struggling squatter's wife. So you can see how this graphic organizer has allowed us to visually make sense of what the question is asking and how to address it. First of all, we break down the question into parts, decide which part of the question will be our main points for the essay. In this case, the significant aspects of life, which acts as an umbrella to explore the two texts in further detail. And then we organize our mind map with each layer representing a different part of the question. So inversely, the third part of the question is our inner layer here, our broad point for each paragraph. And our second part of the question is the second layer here, and the first part of the question is our third layer here. So this activity is excellent practice in organizing our responses to essay questions. You should practice this activity at home as a study technique to practice breaking down questions and organizing our responses accordingly, and also practicing looking at a question and brainstorming ideas and arguments to answer it, transforming generic study notes into specific arguments that answer the question. So now in your groups, finish the mind map. Log into one of the members of the group's Popplet account. Give it a title 2013 HSC question mind map, and you can format it as you like. Please feel free to copy what I have already contributed here. So yeah, definitely feel free to copy that, but please flesh out what I've already written. There are definitely many more techniques that you could contribute to the third layer. And of course you'll need to come up with 3 more significant aspects of life and move on from there. So you'll have to do the second and third layers of every point yourselves. So after everyone has finished their Popplet, save it, and then each group will come up and present their Popplet to the class on the smartboard so that we can all share our ideas. So thank you for listening, Year 12, and good luck.